So the Enterprise still cruising along, of course, and they paid a visit to Regular One from Wrath of Khan. Not really, but they used the same model. And I just thought I'd make mention of it just to show how much of a nerd I can be. Of course, this was the opening scenes of A Measure of a Man, which is often cited as when Star Trek The Next Generation found its footing and was starting to show signs of improvement. Season 2 is still overall weak, similar to Season 1 in comparison to the rest of the series, but it's not without reason to cite an episode like this, and it shows the potential that the show had and achieved, and stands out, of course, amongst the others. But Next Generation was always trying, at least, unlike some shows today. Yeah. But anyway, this is the one where it's an episode that's necessary for sci-fi shows, in that they're very expensive to do. So once you've got your set built, you're going to want to do it on the ship show. Don't go to any alien worlds or any of that. And it centers around Data and the question of whether or not does Data really count as a sentient being. And then you go through the definitions and whatnot. Now, he was built out of parts in a machine by a man and programmed to, be a facsimile of humanity to the best of Dr. Soong's ability. And so it's quite an achievement on Soong's part and all of that. And Data continues to grow and learn and all this sort of thing. But then the question comes, even though it's a mechanical facsimile of a human mind, does it not achieve the consciousness? And that's the question. Obviously, the answer is yes. That's the show posits this. And of course, a lot of scenes there, most notably, referring back to Tasha Yar and how important she was to Data. And that's probably the deciding factor, because by the time, you get to the trial and Picard asks Data about some artifacts that he keeps. Why do you keep these? And he says they're special to me. And then, of course, Natasha Yar and the judge, another recurring character, is taken aback by this when he says, because Natasha was important to me, special to me, we were intimate. Even though I swore never to reveal this, Captain orders him to do it anyway, says she would understand the circumstances. And it's always these aspects of it. And the more importantly for the show itself is Data, when he realizes he's going to be dismantled by Bruce Maddox, who's enthusiastic and in awe of Dr. Soong's work and wants to produce more androids for the purposes of, hey, these are crew members who can go where ordinary people can't, and that sort of thing. And of course it conjures up the conversation about, well, these will be disposable people between Picard and Guinan and all that. You're talking about slavery. Well, yeah. But hey, we just made them out of a toaster. That sort of thing, you give pet names to cars, do you? But anyway, but the scene of the show is positing that indeed Data has achieved some amount of sentience, and ultimately, based on what's presented, he can decide his own fate, and of course he declines the experiment that Maddox wants to do, and all of that. But the play overall is good in the sense that Riker is forced to represent the prosecution, and he puts up a good case where he literally takes Data's hand off and then turns Data off. So it's like, hey, how about that? And Picard's sitting there like, oh man, I lost this one. But that was the deal, and it was a touching scene at the end where everyone's happy that Data is not going to be dismantled and he can stay on the Enterprise and all this stuff. And then, of course, Riker's sulking by himself off to a room, and Data goes to get him, And, Riker's saying, well, I feel terrible because I almost won the case, and of course Data says, yeah, but if you didn't, the judge was just going to hand me over. I had to have my chance for the trial, and you had to do the part. So, it works out before. I mean, it's nice between the interaction of the characters and the development before them there, and why he matters to them. Of course, the real reason Data matters is because they'd all be dead without him. Eventually, it's a show where Riker literally says, Data, we need a solution, and we need it now. Because that's usually how it goes. Nobody likes Wesley, and they always say, I'm tired of episodes where Wesley saved the ship and all that, but Wesley's got nothing on Data, And, of course, with Data, makes sense, He can think faster than the rest of them and all that. So, the show is obviously leaning towards that. Does it really answer the question overall? Not really. But one could argue, and certainly as even Data himself, was that even though his information would have been saved after being dismantled, what had been achieved through his everyday interactions and whatnot would possibly be lost. And as a result of that, this could also be dangerous. You revive Data, and now he's cold and nasty. Who knows? And that sort of thing. But it's the interesting question about it, and whether or not he was just a clever machine or not, or what have you. But obviously it favored the other option there, that he was sentient. But, and the interesting thing of looking back at it after the absurdity of the Picard Season 1 aspects and whatnot, just how this simple one episode puts that entire season to shame immediately, and not just that one, but other episodes that we'll get into with Next Generation as well, that they just sort of stole pieces and bits and pieces here that had already covered and dealt with, to just slap it on to say they had a show, and that kind of thing. So, all the more reason to respect this one, I guess. Not that it needs it. But it works. It's fine, and using court drama for the sake of a space show, it worked in the old series, and it certainly worked here for Measure of a Man. Well, that was followed by a little touching young romance story with Wesley. Yes. So the Enterprise had to transport this seemingly young girl from an alien world to go and take on the ruling duties of another planet in order to hope they could maintain the peace from a devastating civil war that happened and all this sort of stuff. And they don't know much about them, but they've agreed to go ahead and do it. And then this future ruler, whatever, is seemingly a pretty young girl. And Wesley catches her eye, and they're both instantly smitten with one another. And so all of that. But she's got this nanny that's very protective. And then we learn that the nanny is a shapeshifter of some sort. It can turn into a monster, or to that hot chick from Twin Peaks. Stuff like that, And later on, she gets overprotective and goes to battle with Worf and everything. And then, I don't know, it's kind of like she's into Worf. Later on. But, of course, Wesley's all smitten, and so they do dumb stuff where he seeks out the other crew members' advice on how to talk to girls and all this type of thing. Not that he had to worry about it much, because the girl was already interested in him. So they hang out. He introduces her to chocolate mousse and stuff like that, and it's all sweet. But the nanny doesn't like that, so she turns into a monster and attacks. And Wesley's like, "Oh, God, won't!" And then the girlfriend right in front of him turns into a monster too. After he made out with her. Oh my God, what did I just kiss? I don't know. But that's life in space for you. And so after all said and done, like the girl was having second thoughts about wanting to be stuck on that throne in that world or whatever the hell. And but The nanny was going a bit overboard, but in the end, she was doing what she was supposed to do, and she had come to be the mother to this girl and all that. If she is a girl, I don't know. What this? Because in the end, we see her true form, and she's just this pillar of light type thing. Okay. And so Wesley's pissed off at first, and you can understand. But in the end, I don't know, he gives her some chocolate mousse to take, or have one last taste. I don't even know if she has a tongue anymore after she turns into the pillar of light. Or anyway, that's the form she has to take to live on that world down below, because it's, I don't know, so heavily irradiated or some crap. Didn't really pay attention. It wasn't a very good episode. It was just trying to be sweet and cute stuff about, young love and whatnot. And pretty weak compared to the previous one. But that's about it. And so there you go. Wesley got his heart broken because he made out with a furry monster. Yeah, whatever.